Hello, my name is Danny Gonzalez, and this presentation is on professional teaching standards. After this presentation, you'll be able to understand the relationships and similarities that both Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium and the National Council for the Social Sciences possesses. Know the importance of the learning differences of each learner. Be informed that one size does not fit all when it comes to content knowledge and assessments, and understand the expectations of an educator to advance the profession. For this presentation, I will be breaking down and explaining the overlap of both sets of standards. To begin, we have INTASC. INTASC, or the Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, is a general outline of common standards that teachers should know. Because each state has a different set of standards, this serves as the universal backbone for teachers across the nation. According to the Council of Chief State School Officers, the purpose of the INTASC standards are to outline what teachers should know and be able to do to ensure every pre-K through 12 student reaches the goal of being ready to enter college or the workforce. We must ensure that every learner in the community has the skills to be successful adults post their high school career, whether that be college or some sort of profession. The SPA, or Specialized Professional Association, is my area of expertise. For this, I have chosen the National Council for the Social Studies, or NCSS, as my goal is to teach social studies. The mission of the National Council for Social Studies is to advocate and build capacity for high-quality social studies by providing leadership, services, and support to educators. I have also stated on here on the bottom of both sections that the INTASC standards relates to all teachers in general, while the NCSS is for teachers with the goal of teaching social studies or social science specifically. My first theme that I'll be talking about is learners' individual differences. The standard in the INTASC that relates to the topic is standard number 2, learning differences. The standard explains that the teacher uses understanding of individual differences and diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning environments that enable each learner to meet high standards. This means that the teacher must be able to adapt and take many factors into consideration for each student individually to maximize their learning potential. Adaptability is key, and building on the learner's prior knowledge and experiences is the place to start. Including a different pace and task demands along with designing instruction that will use the learner's strengths allows for inclusion of everyone individually. This is true when working with learners with special needs, as everyone has an accommodation. On the SPA side, we have standard number 4 titled Social Studies, Learners, and Learning, specifically element number 4A. The standard says the teacher uses understanding of individual differences and diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning environments that enable each learner to meet high standards. Again, the standard kind of overlaps with the INTASC by also looking at the learner's path for success as an individual by considering the learner's social, cultural assets, which could vary from language to religion, learning demands, and individual identities. Learners' individual differences and why it matters. Knowing the capabilities and weaknesses of your students helps you as an educator to be able to understand and provide different methods per student. To maximize knowledge intake, we must know everyone is at a different pace or level, and it is okay to accommodate in order to fully utilize their capabilities. Teachers can develop skill sets to be able to learn and understand methods and techniques to help. By doing so, you expand your knowledge on what works best for the learner to be a better educator. Theme number 2 is alternatives for assessments. The standard in the INTASC set is standard number 6 titled Assessment. The standard says the teacher understands and uses multiple methods of assessment to engage learners in their own growth, to monitor learner progress, and to guide the teachers' and learners' decision making. The key to the standard is the learner's ability to demonstrate learned material through alternative ways if test taking is not one of their strong assets. Understanding the material doesn't always have to be met with traditional formal tests. There are plenty of academic and creative ways in which the learner can show they understand. It can vary from projects to essays and journal entries. This way, the learner can apply the learned knowledge instead of trying to retain information for the purpose of just using it for an exam. On the SPA side, standard number 3 relates to the topic of assessments, specifically elements 3A, 3C, and 3E. 3A states, candidates design and implement a range of authentic assessments that measure learners' mastery of disciplinary knowledge, inquiry, and forms of representation for civic competence and demonstrate alignment with state-required content standards. 3C states candidates use theory and research to implement a variety of instructional practices and authentic assessments featuring disciplinary knowledge, inquiry, and forms of representation for civic competence. And finally, 3E says candidates engage learners in self-assessment practices that support individualized learning outcomes related to disciplinary knowledge, inquiry, and forms of representation for civic competence. Formal assessments don't always have to demonstrate the understanding of the material. By allowing to demonstrate knowledge through alternative methods, the learner can apply learned material that can benefit them more rather than struggling and stressing to memorize. Alternatives for assessments, why it matters. Formal assessments don't always demonstrate the understanding of the material. By allowing to demonstrate knowledge through alternative methods, learner can apply learned material that can benefit them more rather than struggling and stressing to memorize. Collaboration is important because it is a skill that we use not only in the academic environment, but especially outside in some sort of profession. In the INTASC standards, number 10, titled Leadership and Collaboration, has to do with just that. It states that the teacher seeks appropriate leadership roles and opportunities to take responsibility for students learning to collaborate with learners, families, colleagues, other school professionals, and community members to ensure learner growth and advance the profession. Relating to collaboration in the SPA side is standard number 4, specifically element 4B. It states candidates facilitate collaborative, interdisciplinary learning environments in which learners use disciplinary facts, concepts, and tools, engage in disciplinary inquiry, and create disciplinary forms of representation. For a successful education, collaboration extends further than just colleagues. The involvement of the community and everyone in it is what makes your education possible. Data-driven decision-making can be seen in standard number 1, which we covered in theme 1. The only way to learn how to adapt is by trial and error, and that's just what standard 1 is. Being able to assess and realize where learners are struggling allows the teacher to focus more attention to that area and possibly modify where necessary. This also leads to standard number 6, which is assessment. Having assessments and being able to look at the extracted results allows teachers to brainstorm on how to bridge the gaps of the majority. On the SPA standards, number 3D relates to data-driven decision-making. It states candidates exhibit data literacy by using assessment data to guide instructional decision-making and reflect on student learning outcomes related to disciplinary, knowledge, inquiry, and forms of representation for civic competence. This is helpful when learning where a student is at academically. At my worksite, we use a program called iReady, where the student completes lessons based on results of a diagnostic they take. This test shows and places students at the appropriate grade level in which they are given lessons. The data that is provided on how they do precisely where their maximum capabilities are. The data allows the teacher to see where their learner needs more work. The iReady diagnostic is an adaptive assessment that adjusts its questions to suit your student's needs. Each item a student sees is individualized based on their answer to the previous question. For example, a series of correct answers will result in slightly harder questions, while a series of incorrect answers will yield slightly easier questions. The purpose of this is to not give your student a score or grade, but instead to determine how to best support your student's learning. Finally, we have INTASC and professional expectations. For this, we look at standard number 9 in the INTASC standards and standard number 5 in the SPA, which sums up the importance of being able to continuously learn and seek out opportunities to improve their practice. Just because you're a teacher doesn't mean that your craft has been perfected. There are always new ways to do something, and being receptive to information and seeking help for students and colleagues help shape and advance the profession. The morals and values of the standards from both INTASC and NCSS have a lot of common ground. Understanding the differences of all individuals provides an insight that one process does not work for everyone. Formal assessments don't always demonstrate the understanding of the material. By allowing to demonstrate knowledge through alternative methods, the learner can apply learned material that can benefit them more. Collaboration and data-driven decision-making are key factors to engage and bridge gaps in education, and growth is indefinite. Teachers should always seek for better methods.